system, and now we sit here alongside our classmates for one last occasion. Once you walk across this stage and collect your diploma, you will never have to ask to use the restroom again. You will be allowed to go whenever you please, without fear of hearing, "I don't know, can you?" You will never have to have a signed note by your parent in response to yesterday's absence. You will use your own voice to explain such events. Lastly, you will never have to eat another school lunch again. It may have taken 13 years to reach this point, but it's definitely been worth it. As for me, I like to look at books as lives, or our lives as books. Each journey we go on and every path we take becomes a chapter. Some chapters are longer than others, some may be funny, others sad, but they all tell the same story, the story of our life. I would have to say that everything we individually go through is what shapes these chapters and turns us into the people that we become. However, is in high school actually begin to become who we have always been meant to be. As kids, we go through tons of different phases. Phases like what our favorite color is, what our favorite food might be, and what we want to be when we grow up. For me, it was green, macaroni and cheese, and a pizza maker. I'm not kidding, I had a pizza making kit and everything. The macaroni and cheese I don't believe has changed, but everything else has. The experiences that I've been through, the people I've met, and the different classes I've encountered have really routed me toward my future self. Sure, in college we may change our minds a few times about what our major should be or what we want out of our lives, but our books have been started and the cover is all ready to go. Today, as everybody walks across this stage, this chapter in your life will close, and your journey here at Hannibal High School will come to an end. As you can see, these past 4 years have been quite the journey for me personally, and I have memories associated with my years here at Hannibal High School. I remember being a freshman and taking my first steps through the halls of the high school. I remember my first swim meet as a pirate and being able to hear my mother screaming while I was underwater. I remember the first state cut I made in the 500 freestyle. I remember my first time breaking the school record in that same event. I also remember the first phone call I received letting me know that the boys swim program was canceled before my senior year. It's okay, I'm not bitter or anything. As I flipped through my chapter, full of student involvement, I remember working alongside my friend and Mrs. McCullum, who is, by the way, the best class sponsor ever, to build amazing floats for every year's homecoming parade. And I also remember coming in second to Mrs. Rodman's group the past 3 years. My chapter of the friends I have come to make seems to be filled with the best of stories. Most vividly from this chapter, I remember sitting in Mrs. Broughton's room my sophomore year, listening to Shelby Nelson yell at me for stealing her speech about crayons, when in all truth, I think she's just mad that mine was more clever. Isn't that right, Shelby? It's okay, it's still kind of a touchy subject. I recall finding my voice in a chapter full of music. I remember stepping onto the stage for my first show choir competition, as well as falling off the stage, ripping my pants and scarring my leg the first competition of this past season. I remember and deeply cherish the memory of being selected for the All-State Show Choir and the trip itself to Jefferson City with my fellow choir members, Mrs. Fuller and Mrs. Kurz, and Mrs. Kurz's vehicle known to us as the Black Bus. I remember my first audition for a musical my sophomore year, all the way through my final bow as Prince Charming this past fall, and all the practices and sections in between. From within my early mornings, I remember Mrs. Moon letting us come to her room instead of having to fight the crowd in the cafeteria, whenever I would actually get to school early enough to go in there. I remember being asked to do the morning announcements, which I accepted, not knowing that on the first day, I would in fact mess up the Pledge of Allegiance. But it's fine, it only happened one other time, so I guess you could say it could have been worse. Unfortunately, what they forgot to tell me, which had to have been somewhere in the fine print, is that the job also included Mr. Sampson and Mr. Nolan throwing paper wads at you while you were speaking to the school. For my chapter of service, I will always remember my years as a key clubber and as a Missouri-Arkansas district officer. I will remember the trips to Springfield for board meetings and the trips across the country to Atlanta, Georgia and San Antonio, Texas to attend international conventions where I met key clubbers from all over Central and North America. I will remember the service projects completed and all the time and laughs spent with our Key Club's amazing advisor, Miss Gamble, and our local Kiwanis. In my chapter of academics, I will remember the first B I ever got, which was in calculus this year, and I remember being so proud of myself for doing so. Sorry, Mr. Catalpa, but I still don't know what a derivative is. I will always remember coming into the school late at night to attempt to pull off some of our senior pranks, even though only a few of the 5 were successful. One of them being Mr. Sampson's personal favorite, where we filled his office with 300 balloons, some of which were filled with confetti and streamers. Future seniors, I recommend using more balloons. I will remember my friends, all the laughs, the tears, the stress, the lack of sleep, and the fun that went along with going to Hannibal High School. I will remember all of these things as they become pressed in between the pages of my ongoing book. These memories, different for everybody here, will all go down as a chapter of our own books. And beyond it will be many blank pages, pages ready for the next chapter of our lives, for more memories to come. One thing every author does is dedicate his or her book. My dedication page, as I'm sure everyone else here, is full of the names of people that I thank all the time for the things they've done for me. Thank you to each teacher I've ever had. I'm sorry if we did not always see eye to eye, but you helped me get to where I'm at today, and for I'm grateful. Thank you to our guidance counselors, especially Mrs. McCullum, for always willing to put things on hold so that I could pop in and talk about whatever I needed. Thank you to Miss Graves for being one of the wisest, most entertaining, and most inspirational people I've ever met. Thank you to Mrs. Ruhr, Mrs. Fuller, and Mrs. Kurz for being the ones to help me find my voice, and for never giving up on me even when I might have been being stubborn. Thank you to all of my friends, the ones sitting out here with me, the ones that are sitting out in the audience still supporting me, and to the ones that couldn't be here today but still support me in everything I do. And a special shout out to Fam Bam for always being there for me, listening to me when I need to complain, which might happen often, and for putting up with all the blank Snapchats that I send out. Thank you to my grandparents, uncles, aunts, and cousins for being there for me and supporting me whenever you can. Lastly, thank you to my family, to my mom, dad, Austin, and Abby. Thank you for putting up with me all these years, through all the sass, the messy room, and the crankiness, because without you all behind me, I wouldn't be where I am today. Everything I have done my hardest to make you proud. All these people have significantly touched my life, whether they know it or not, and they will forever stay in my book. Throughout my 4 years here at school, I was blessed to have 2 years of anatomy classes with Miss Stacy Graves. She has a burning passion for human anatomy and for passing her knowledge on to those around her. She would often say in the middle of a lesson that what she was giving to us were these little pearls. Pearls of knowledge to cherish that we take with us wherever we might end up. The best pearl I ever received was nothing she ever said directly to us, though. In her classroom, all around the walls, she has the handprints and quotes of the seniors that have all graduated from her class. On the wall right in front of where I sat were her handprints from when she first retired, and I often caught myself reading what she had written. When I found out that I would be speaking for you today, I knew that I had to share this pearl with you all. It goes, "To the dear ones, you have always been told that the world is your oyster. All you have to do is pry it open and remove the beautiful pearl. Newsflash, the world doesn't work like that. It is not your oyster, and it probably isn't even your clam. The world, your life, will be exactly what you make it. It will challenge you, sometimes make you cry, it will often fill you with wonder, and it will usually present the unexpected. Your life will be a journey. Be sure to wear your tennis shoes. With love and best wishes, Gravy, aka Miss Graves." I believe that this is a pearl is one that each and every one of us should take with us as we enter the next chapter of our lives. Nothing is going to be handed to you. You'll have to get out there and work for what you want if you want to be successful. Some of you I will never see again, and I wish you all the best. As you begin the next chapter in your lives, I want you to consider words from my Key Club District Administrator, Jan Sinclair, who unfortunately passed away in the middle of my term as a district officer. She impacted so many people with her life, including myself, and she really did make a difference. Her words could be found at the end of every email she sent, and it is the motto that I aspire to live my life by each and every day. Do the right thing, always be humble and kind, no regrets. My fellow classmates, there's one last thing that I believe everyone here, including myself, needs to hear out loud. There isn't just one way to be successful. It took me way longer than it should have to realize that it's okay to make sacrifices to do what you love to do. So I hope you can all realize that too. It's sad but true, but we're not always sure how many sequels, chapters, or even pages our book may have left. That is why it's always important to make sure that each page, each and every word in our book counts, because you never know when you may run out of ink. As the last word is written down and we close this chapter in our lives, there's nothing but blank pages ahead for us all. It's time for us to fully take control of our futures and to make sure that the chapters to come are full of memories and success. Make people want to read your book and hear your story. Thank you.